Hey guys.
Alright folks, we're here today to check out the Patreon poll winner of the week, none other than In Flames, Foregone Pt1. This is their latest single from their upcoming new record announced for February release with Nuclear Blast. They're currently on a North American tour with none other than Fit for an Autopsy, Orbit Culture, and Vented or Venti maybe.
One of the names.
Yeah, large Venti Grande. I don't know, one of those Starbucks.
And we saw them recently.
Well, not those guys, because we were late.
We were late.
Not because of us, but because of public transit in the great city of Toronto. We were late, but we were on time for Orbit Culture. Right on time for Orbit Culture, Fit for an Autopsy, and definitely the highlight of the night, In Flames. Which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen them on this tour, and you want some old school In Flames, fuck it, buy a ticket, hurry up. You get it.
But highlight of the night is what I wouldn't say.
Well, hold on. They give you the whole biography. They start with the first record and they work their way all the way through.
Yeah.
Which I never seen that from them live. So fucking phenomenal. You definitely don't want to miss it. What do you mean, not a highlight?
Well, they're not my highlight of the night.
For you, the highlight of the night was getting some bear hugs from Joe Bad from Fit for an Autopsy. I think you had a little bit of a boner.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right,
I was chubbed up just a little bit.
Just a tip. All right, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, let's check this out. No foreplay. Can I go first?
Yeah.
Can I please go first? Okay, I want to start off by saying this. There's going to be an interview with Bjorn from In Flames coming up on the channel. I don't know the date yet. I'm waiting for confirmation on when I can release it to the masses, to the great unwashed. But it's an interview where we talk about the new record, about the sound on the new record, what to expect from the new record. We also touch a little bit on the tour that they are doing currently in North America. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that video. It's going to pop out at some point in time as soon as I get the green light to put it out there for the masses. Like I said, I mean, if you're on Patreon, then you get a sneak peek of that said interview. Now, talking about this song, it kind of gave me a little bit of a Horacle vibe, but if it was remastered, because those old albums, the production was not as crisp as obviously the production is now.
Yeah.
But it had the same sound vibes. It had a lot of the same style structure. It had a lot of the same, I don't want to say atmosphere, but it had a lot of the same sound qualities and sound elements to it, just with a modern production behind it. So that's my take from this track. It's probably the heaviest, or at least the most consistently heavier song of the 3 singles so far.
I think it's actually my favorite.
Is your favorite so far?
Out of the 3 singles, yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I think it's
Why? Because it's the heaviest, consistently
I think
heavier?
it's consistently heavy, but it also gives me that consistent energy. It gives me that energy that I need in an In Flames song. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it. It's more of just the song, the feel of the song, the great momentum of the song, just everything about this song. It kind of makes me feel like this is, out of the 3, this is my favorite, because especially I've seen, you know, I feel we've seen them live many times, so I know for a fact this song live
is going to be even heavier.
It's going to be even heavier.
The 2 new tracks, the 2 new singles, because when we went to see them, this one wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
So they played the 2 other singles, and they sounded a lot heavier live than.
And they worked really well live with the crowd and everything.
Yeah. Well, and it worked really well because they also went back into the discography and they start playing tracks from the first record. So those songs kind of fit perfectly with those older tracks.
And this one would be no different. I mean,
no
this
different.
one, I do agree with you. This does sound like older In Flames been remastered, because it does give me the old In Flames vibe with more of a clean cut production.
Yeah, with a little bit more sophisticated production.
Exactly.
So you're able to feel the guitars more, you're able to feel the drums more, things don't sound as hollow.
Yeah.
Things have a little bit more substance.
But you also have the energy of Old In Flames in this song.
The more consistent energy.
And the more consistent energy.
With some little, almost like prog elements. Like when it goes stripped down, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And they used to do that quite a bit in those older records. So that to me was really interesting. The solo section was really good. The solo section was really good on this track. If I have to look at what the solos add as far as the quality of the song and the feel of the song, this becomes the best one in terms of how the solo impacts it. I'm not sold if this is going to be my favorite of the 3. I always feel like the new one is always going to be my favorite of the 3.
No,
but it's definitely the most consistently heavier of the 3.
It is. You know,
probably also the most old school one of all 3.
Out of all of them, yes.
Of all 3.
Yes, definitely. I feel like that one's a gimme though. This one, after listening to this one, it does feel like we did a Throwback Thursday, but
oh, totally. But just like I said, like a remaster.
Someone clean cut it.
Yeah, it's just a remastered version of an old track.
That's probably why I like it though.
Yeah, it
does,
has great sound.
It does have a great sound, and for people who love the old In Flames, this is going to give you a nostalgia, but also like, you know, a weird nostalgia where it's like, I feel like I've heard something like this before, but it's nice to hear it more nicely, you know, put together. And I
going from small bar melodic death metal to the big arena rock arena melodic death metal. I feel that.
I'm not losing the touch.
Exactly, the Midas touch. I don't want to give too much away of that interview with Bjorn, but I asked him about the whole old school In Flames versus like new In Flames. You know, like fans always like, oh, old school In Flames, new In Flames. So I actually asked him about like how does he feel about those terms, people using those. So he had a very interesting answer. So you guys definitely don't want to miss that interview. Like we kind of get into the weeds a little bit about that kind of stuff that fans throw out there as far as those monikers of old In Flames, new In Flames. It's impossible to talk about In Flames without using those two.
Yeah, obviously. I feel like
regardless of how you feel about it,
there's always
that is always going to come up on any conversation.
Exactly.
But I think,
do you like new In Flames or old In Flames?
But doesn't that speak to the longevity of the band, that they've been around for so long that you can have old and new?
Yeah.
I think it does. I think it does, and it also.
I mean, every band has an old and new, but if you were able to put
not every band, but every band has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, like Testament, like there's Old Testament and there's New Testament.
Yeah, the Bible.
That's not the Testament I was talking about, but okay.
what I'm saying is like a lot of bands have gone through the new and old phase, but I think within Flames is because
not if you're Slayer or like AC/DC, because
that's true.
They never strayed from the path. No pun intended.
No pun intended. But like old In Flames and new In Flames, it's because their discography is so big. There's so much. It's not like there's only a little bit of New In Flames out there. New In Flames has been around for a while now, so there is a big difference and also a big discography in both.
In both camps.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think it's just for them. We can always speculate, and I think if you ask them, and I did ask. About those questions in terms of the changes in sounds and what drove old In Flames versus new In Flames. I think you always want to get an answer. Now it's going to be up to the person listening to that answer to say, I buy it or I don't buy it or whatever, because I'm sure a lot of people have always pointed the finger at In Flames and said that the new sound was because they wanted to be more successful, more radio friendly, go with the wave that it was popular, that was in at the time. I mean, it's a fair take to have. Is it true or not? I mean, only the band can answer.
Only the band will know, yeah.
And even when they answer you that question, only they know if they're being truthful in the answer that they're giving.
And not only that, maybe they don't even...
Maybe it's in the subconscious mind.
Yeah,
maybe they're not doing like with that goal in mind. It just kind of happened to be that way.
It happened in time.
But
or maybe sometimes they just forget.
Well, but now there's the new conspiracy theory, which is they sound the way they sound on this record because of the halo effect. But what I think you guys are missing, I'm not saying that there's no validity in that, but think about this. This record that's coming out February 1st, they didn't record this last month. This album has been in the works for the last 2 years. So in the last 2 years, unless they had some inside scoop on whatever the sound of, well, I'm sure they knew that these guys were getting together and making a band, but it's not like they listened to each other's shit. So you have to keep that in mind. This album, it's been in the works for a very long time. It's not like the Halo Effect releases a record, they listen to it and they're like, fuck, we gotta up that shit. No, this album...
That would be fun. That would be...
It's a fun thought process to have.
But
it's a fun conspiracy, but there's no logic in it.
There's a lot of holes in the...
As most do. So you have to look at the process that goes into making an album. It's not overnight. For a record to come out this February, this album has been recorded probably, by the time it reaches the market in February, it's probably been fully recorded and mastered for at least 6 to 8 months. At least. Sometimes it's a year. Sometimes, depending on the record, depending on the release. Yeah. So while I enjoy entertaining those conversations, I don't think there's a lot of validity in it. I think this album sounds the way it does just because it was the time and they felt like this is the sound that they wanted to make, and these are the riffs that they came up with.
Exactly. And they did
It's as simple as that. It could be as... Sometimes we try to overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
but I think sometimes the simplest answer is
like
the right answer.
Like I said, it's a fun conspiracy, but there's a lot of holes in the conspiracy. So... believe what you want to believe, but what I believe is that this is what they did. This is what they were going to do anyways. So the fact that they came out at similar times, or one after the other, I mean, like...
That could be a coinkydink.
It's a coinkydink. That's what it is.
It could be a coinkydink. I actually think, if I was a betting man, and I was to put my money, well, specifically now, because... Obviously, I talked to Bjorn, so I know a little bit more than what I did before.
Okay.
So, if I was a betting man, I would say that the pandemic probably had more of an impact. Because normally these guys release an album, they're on the road. And then they go into the studio to record an album that was kind of put together, created while they were still on the road touring. So there's not as much of a stopgap between tour, album. With the pandemic, they didn't tour. So they had, first of all, they were pissed off that they couldn't tour. They were pissed off that they couldn't do what they like to do. So a lot of that anger, I think, is then moves into the album, into the creation of the record. And I think you see this heaviness and and you see that anger coming across in the sound and in the vocals. I think there's more truth in that. And also that the fact that they had more time. They were not like, oh, we have 1 month to go into the studio because we just finished a tour. We have another one coming back. Like, whatever. Like, there was plenty of time for them to, like, be creative, work on something that they really liked, and then put it together.
It's showing.
It doesn't feel as rushed. And I'm not saying that the previous albums were rushed, but when you're squeezing records in between tours, to a certain degree, it's kind of rushed.
It is being rushed. Whether it sounds like it or not, it is being rushed. this one, what we are getting so far, you can see that work has paid off, and the time has gone into good things. But that anger and stuff from being locked up going into this record is also kind of like, you get the sound of old In Flames through some of these songs so far, which maybe that same anger they had back in the day
when they were young,
younger
and
hungry. That anger going into that sound. That's why I think,
and I think they're a little bit hungry now too because they haven't been on the road for a very long time.
So what I'm saying is, maybe it's sounding like old In Flames is because of that anger that they've had from COVID and everything, is just the same anger they had when they started. So you're really, I think
the motivation is the same.
I think the motivation is the same, and I think the band is just coming full circle now.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I agree with you. One last thing I'll say is this. This album, the first 3 singles, you can make an argument that everyone has been better than the previous. You cannot make that same argument for the last record.
That is very true.
You cannot... And I really enjoyed the last album. I really did. It has a lot of great songs. But when I look at the sequence of the singles that they released for the album... I don't think you can make the same argument. I don't think the argument is not...
I think the choice of singles they've used for this album has been really good.
I agree. All right, guys, let us know your thoughts on the singles. Let us know your thoughts on this song. Let us know your thoughts on In Flames in general. And have you seen them in this North American tour? And were you surprised with the set list? Hit us up in the comment section. We'll see you all at the next video.
See ya.